Lately, I've been branching back into Guilty Gear Strive. I know Biken's coming out and I'm planning on playing her, but I actually started playing Soul a little bit. And I'll say this right now, if you're somebody who stopped playing Strive or doesn't really know who to play in that game because it feels simple to you, like a lot of the characters feel like they have very simple game plans, play Soul. He's not playing Strive. He's playing Soul's game. He has a lot of stuff that other characters don't, and it makes him actually really fun and interesting to mess around with, even just in training mode. But every time I feel like booting up Strive, I have this weird feeling that I should be playing Street Fighter instead. I feel kind of trapped by my main game because I've spent so much time. It's like a sunk cost fallacy. That's really how I can describe it. Because I've spent so much time learning that game and learning how the characters work and trying to beat all the different gimmicks that these characters have, that I feel like playing another game is like wasting time, which I know it's not, but like in the moment, it's hard to tell yourself that, especially when I boot up Strive and I do get into a game and then I lose to like some dude who's just running at me, right? Like just running at me, blocking with his face, and I'm losing to like some random special move I don't know how to beat yet, but I know it's a negative. Like losing to gimmicks, that's a frustrating thing, and every time it happens, I always think if this was Street Fighter, I would have known what to do because I've spent so much time playing the game. It's also kind of daunting to think about how far I've come in Street Fighter and all of the stuff I've had to learn up until now, and then having to try and translate that to Guilty Gear, or having to put at least that much time to get as good at Guilty Gear. But the good thing is, I think a lot of the skills actually transfer. I think a lot of the skills that I've picked up in Street Fighter would probably transfer to Guilty Gear pretty well, so it wouldn't take me 1,000 hours to get decent. It would just take a lot of time to develop new skills that apply to like Guilty Gear and anime games, I guess, like air movement and just movement in general in that game is a lot different because there's momentum when you run and you can run and stick out buttons. Whiff punishing is a lot different. Neutral in general functions a little bit differently than Street Fighter. I will say though, Strive is probably the most similar Guilty Gear game to a Street Fighter game, and as much as you didn't want to hear me say that, it is how I feel. And I have played the other Guilty Gear games, not extensively, probably for like 50 to 100 hours each. I played Plus R and I played Exert, and I will say Strive does feel the most like ground-based and has more, I guess, traditional footsie game, you would say. I don't really know what traditional footsies would mean, but to me, it means like ground-based Street Fighter style footsies. And so I'm not going to say that I'm going to switch games or anything drastic like that, but I want to be able to play multiple games and be good at them. And feeling trapped by one or one style of game is kind of a problem. The pull factor from Street Fighter is that I already have the knowledge and I feel like I'm getting somewhere. So why would I switch now? But I have to think of it as not switching, but just trying something new. The other thing that stops me a lot of the time is I look to the future a lot. Like I look very far into the future, and Street Fighter is continuously a very strong IP. So a lot of people who sunk time into Street Fighter are successful in the future iteration. It's a great way to learn fundamentals because they will carry on to the next Street Fighter game, and they also carry on to other games that are similar to them. So I feel like my best interest is to keep playing Street Fighter because it will help me in the future, but that's not always the best thing, right? At the end of the day, they're video games. Like, I want to have fun. But the time that I've sunk into Street Fighter keeps pulling me back in, which is something I just gotta get over. The pull factor from Guilty Gear, though, is the netcode. That shit is godlike. But you literally get on. I know the battle stations don't work, which I don't really like. I don't understand how the netcode could be so good, but the battle stations are broke. But anyways, whenever you find the game, you can play the game. And that probably sounds fucking stupid, but what I mean is when you get into that game, you know that you can play in an environment that is as close to offline on the internet as you can get. There's still going to be issues. You're going to run into people who play on Wi-Fi and think it's fine. Wi-Fi will always fluctuate. It's not fine. You need to play on a wire. I'm sorry. I don't care how close you're sitting to your fucking router. But even when you do run into people playing on Wi-Fi, it's not as bad as on other games like Street Fighter or on like any delay-based game. And the biggest thing to me is there's no one-sided rollback. I'm not being punished for having a better computer than the other guy who's playing on a fucking cinder block. And that shit is so common in other games that have rollback. That has been an issue. When Melty Blood Type Lumina came out, that shit was one-sided rollback. Street Fighter 5, 6 years in the making, shit still is one-sided all the time. If you couldn't tell already, this video was kind of me trying to talk myself into playing Guilty Gear. This is not scripted. This is a living, breathing monologue of everything in my head right now, how I'm trying to think through these things. That's most of what this channel is. And if you enjoyed it, consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.